I'm going to take some of these capacitors out of this power supply. I already know that these smaller ones are bad, even just testing them in circuit with the ESR meter. But I can see that these larger caps here are like physically bulged, like on the tops. So I'm going to extract them out and test them with a Sencore LC102. But yeah, I'm probably going to just take all these caps out of the power supply, so I can get ready for, prep the board for installing the new ones once they arrive. I placed a DigiKey order today for the caps I'm going to need for this, including all these, the larger 1000 microfarad ones, and yeah, everything basically, even the tantalums. I've got a couple of tantalums are quite expensive. For decent ones anyway, but I've got a couple of those in the order as well. Yeah, there's some kind of strange looking capacitors here. I'm not sure what they are, but I think I'm probably going to need to do another order. That's what I'm worried about. It's usually the case whenever I restore any sort of audio equipment. I kind of I jump the gun a bit, and I order a bunch of stuff on DigiKey, and then I get it, and then I'm restoring everything, and then I realize that I missed something, so I have to make another order. And if you're familiar with DigiKey in Australia, at least you know that you have to make an order of at least $60 to get free shipping. So so it always ends up, you have to buy a bunch of, you might have to buy 3 capacitors or something that you missed, but then you have to kind of fill the cart with a bunch of other stuff just to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, you're paying, $20 odd just for shipping 3 capacitors. Yeah, it's a problem I'm sure many of you are familiar with if you use DigiKey regularly, or Mouser. I'm pretty sure they have the same policy on minimum order. But anyway, that's the plan. I'll take these out, and then I'll do a quick video of the LC102. And yeah, it's the first time I've used it. I've had it only for a couple of weeks. I got it from a friend locally, and yeah, I'll be trying to use that thing to test the caps. Cool. So this is the LC102 Sencore capacitor inductor analyzer. First time I've used this. Well, sorry, I've briefly used it to familiarize myself before I started recording, but yeah, first time I've really mucked around with this. A friend gave me a brief sort of overview of what he was using it for, which is mostly to test capacitors. So here's the capacitor out of the Sony, the TA-N86. You can see it's bulged on the top. So what he said to do is we choose aluminium lytics, and then we put in the capacitance value, 33 microfarads, and then the voltage, which is 350 volts. Okay, gives you a warning here about the fact that it's, if you're doing a leakage test, it's gonna put between 25 and 1,000 volts through it. So just be careful there, I suppose. So I've just got the little component holder thing here. I connect it up to that, and then if we want to test the ESR, just hold down the capacitance ESR button, and you can see, despite the the fact that it's malformed, it's bulging on the top, it still reads good. And this reading of 5.5 ohms is roughly the reading that I was getting from the little Peak Atlas ESR meter. So yeah, it's kind of strange. I expected it to be worse than that. But you can also do a capacitor leakage test. So I just hold that down, and it gives the, can't see, reading, saying it's good. 100, what's that, microamps, I guess. So that one's good, but obviously I'm going to replace that because it looks terrible, and I don't, this is definitely the original capacitor that they put in the amplifier back in the 70s, so definitely replacing that. But here's a modern jack con, the probably you know, if you're in Australia at least, I'm not sure if they're around other places, but Jackcon's not a very reputable brand. But I just thought I'll just test the Jackcon and see how it compares to this capacitor from the 70s. This one's actually the same. It's 33, but it's actually 400 volts. So, can I reset? No, I'll just turn it off and on. I'm sure there's a way to like do it better than that. Like, so we go aluminium lytics, 33 microfarad, 400 volts. Let me do the ESR test. 6.5 ohms, which is good for this cap apparently. And we do the leakage test. So yeah, this one is also reading good, as you'd expect, because this one's new. It's never been used before. But yeah, I'm not going to be using a Jackcon in my Sony amp. I'll be getting some. Well, I've already ordered the nice replacements for it, which I think I've gone with Panasonic FC 105C rated caps for the power supply, and you know, different like Nichicon and stuff for the amp board itself. But yeah, that's a quick vid on the same core. I'll be using that to test the other capacitors as well. I'm very used to using this little Peak. It's a bloody amazing meter, especially with these probes. If you're trying to use you can test in circuit with this thing, but I highly recommend these probes if you're going to be doing in circuit testing, because trying to use alligator clips to connect onto leads, especially when you've got little solder, you know, little nubs to try and hold the alligator clips against, which is what this thing comes with by default. It's just no good. It doesn't work. It's not reliable. So these needle probes are really sharp. I've just stabbed myself in, but I've stabbed myself a number of times with these. So be careful, but they're just really excellent for testing in circuit. Highly recommend. I think they're about £12, whatever that is in Australian dollars, $100. That's probably, no, it's more like $30 or something. But yeah, yeah. Quick update on the TA-N86. I've been through the power supply. I've checked all the transistors. Most of them are good. In fact, like pretty much everything is good, except for Q613, which is a 2SC 2023. It's this one here. It's not one of the switching transistors. It's not one of the 4 transistors mounted on the back of the unit. They're all good. It was one of these ones over here next to Q601. Q601's good as well, and that's another 2023. But I've ordered some replacements from a seller on eBay who I got, actually got the lamp from them as well. Yeah, I bought the lamp and then I found out like 3 days later or 2 days later that the that Q613 was bad. And when I found it on eBay from the same seller who sells new old stock components, by the time I'd figured it out, they'd already shipped the lamps, so I missed out on combined shipping. But yeah, whatever. That's my mistake. I mentioned earlier in the video that jumping the gun on ordering components, it's expensive. It adds up, especially when you're paying like $30, you know, Australian to ship tiny little pieces over from the US. I've taken all the capacitors out, these 1000 microfarad 50 volt caps. Most of those are bad. They test low capacitance. ESR is okay, but the capacitance is down to like 540 microfarads on some of those, so which is well below the tolerance that they should be. You know, I'd probably think that something like 800 would be okay, or above. You know, none of them tested. I think one of them tested over 1,000. All of the rest were either, I think there were 3 that were about 800, and then there's 4 of them that test in the 500 range, between 500 and 600. So that's pretty bad. So that's all the big caps on the board here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll be replacing all those. I've already, that was the plan from the beginning, to replace all the caps anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, so I'm just waiting for parts now, waiting for the replacement transistors. I need to figure out how to test the power supply outside of the amp. I think you can connect it to a load, like a dim bulb tester or something like that. I need to look up how to do that because I've never done that before. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Cheers.